Democrats are going bat crazy over Texas redistricting, calling it map rigging. But yes, these are the same folks who invited millions upon millions to invade our nation, add to the census numbers, and pack their districts. The Democrat Party is no longer a party. It's a collective stunt. As much as it may shock you to hear me say this, we need a functioning Democrat Party in America to pick on, but also for the health of the republic. We will not have that if the party goes full communist.
House Democrats have left the state. They are breaking quorum. They are taking this fight national, and they are putting the brakes on Trump's plan, the president's plan to steal congressional seats from the people of Texas.
It's an all hands on deck moment, and all options should be on the table to protect the people of Texas. But Texas Democrats are going to be the ones to decide that.
We ask them to stop attacking Texas communities. They refused because their loyalty and fealty to Donald Trump overrides all other interests.
Because this is an extraordinary act that Republicans have been ordered to undertake to try to gerrymander the Texas congressional map as part of an effort to rig the midterm elections. Wolf, that's what this is all about, because Donald Trump, House Republicans, and the Texas Republican Party, they're all running scared because they have failed the American people.
All right, let's start from the start here and let me break down this Democrat tantrum. First, the hypocrisy. I mean, it is dripping. Democrats are furious over a proposed Texas redistricting map. They say redrawing the lines, commonly known as gerrymandering, disenfranchises black and brown people. It's important to note that they also insist that being asked to have an ID disenfranchises black and brown people. And come to think of it, they basically say everything is racist, including gene ads. So yeah, take that with a boulder-sized grain of salt. But anyway, gerrymandering is a political move, and it's shiesty, and both sides do it and have been doing it since the beginning of this thing called representative democracy. It's not a new thing. It's certainly not a MAGA thing. It's not a Trump thing or an Abbott thing. But as shiesty as the concept of gerrymandering may be, when you compare it to, the invited mass invasion of millions of illegal aliens into our nation over the span of just 4 years, it doesn't really have the same punch, does it? The mass invasion under Otto Penn Joe was the biggest gerrymandering scheme in American history. It was gerrymandering on steroids, and that's still an understatement. The whole purpose was to replace the Americans fleeing blue cities and states with illegals. And while Democrats insist illegals aren't voting, it's plain as day and a fact that illegals count towards the census. And these totals translate to the apportionment calculation for congressional districts and electoral votes. So while Democrats point the finger at Texas Republicans for their maps that perhaps carve out more Republican-favored areas, what they've done with the importation of warm illegal alien bodies into their districts and our entire nation, well, that's the mountain next to a tiny little anthill, my friends. Which is why they had to throw their tantrum and then pull their little stunt to flee Texas for Illinois to deny the quorum and their favorite, make a scene. I'd add it's also pretty cute that the Climate Change Party opted for private travel for their ruse. The Democrat Party is no longer a party. It's a collective stunt, like a giant flash mob performance put on by the most pathetic bunch of unaware and tone-deaf misfits American politics has to offer. And at the end of the day, all it will be is another worthless virtue signal with a side of flash fundraising. How embarrassing. Joining me now to debate and discuss on this Liberal Tuesday is Biden's former White House messaging director and Democrat strategist, Meghan Hays. All right, Meghan, I just laid it out there. I pulled no punches. This is what I think of the stunt. I'm sure you have a different perspective, and I am very anxious to hear it.
Yeah, I think that the Texas Democrats they're responding to Donald Trump asking the Republicans in Texas to find 5 more seats, just like he called Georgia to find more votes in 2020. This is political theater. I definitely agree with you on that. This is something that should be done every 10 years. You even have a Republican member of Congress introducing a bill saying that this should only be done after a census every 10 years. So if Republicans themselves in Congress don't think they should be doing this, then Texas should take note. But I do think that this is important for the Democratic Party. It's important for the Democrats in Texas to fight back. It's drawing awareness. We all know how this is going to end, but it is drawing awareness. It is making people see and making the American people see and have it play out in front of their eyes. So whether you believe that's good or bad, it's still an important conversation to have. So I do think that it is important for the Democratic Party and the base to see the Democrats fighting back here.
Yeah, I mean, fleeing to Illinois, I don't know if that really counts as fighting back necessarily. There's a lot to pick through here. It hasn't been in a long time that like gerrymandering has been like a sexy topic of conversation, but I guess it is now. So it's important to discuss for those that probably have never even heard that term. As I mentioned in my open, both sides do it. But Democrats, they do it better. Democrats do it better, and they do it often. They do it in New York. Of course, they do it in Illinois, which is why it's so crazy that the Democrats in Texas fled to Illinois to make a statement against redistricting or gerrymandering. I mean, I want to just dive into that point right there. Do you think it's a little hypocritical? I mean, objectively speaking, Illinois perhaps is the most gerrymandered state of all the states. So do you think that maybe taking a stand against something by going to a state that does it probably worse than anybody else is a solid message?
So I think you're missing the point of when they're gerrymandering, right? This is normally happens after a census is when they redraw the lines. And I think that is the fight here. They are doing this to gain 5 more seats because if Republicans thought and Donald Trump thought that they were going to win the midterms in a landslide and didn't have the House of Representatives majority on the line, he would have never asked Texas to find 5 more seats. And that is the issue here. It's not how you draw the lines. We all know this happens in blue states and in red states alike. So I'm sure that there are many examples of red states that do this just the same. It is when they are doing this. This is something that should be done after the census every 10 years. We are going to get ourselves into a system where we're going to start doing this when one party doesn't like it, right? And like, that's the problem. If the Democrats win the House and win back the House in 26 and they think they can get 3 more seats out of a certain state for the 28 cycle, are we then going to have all these off-cycle redistricting? That is not a way we can do this. It is not representative of democracy, and they should keep it at the 10 years. Hence why a Republican member of Congress is introducing a bill to keep it every 10 years.
Yeah, interesting there. Interesting, a couple of things that I want to dive in to with you. So you mentioned the census. So are you in agreement with President Trump and people like myself that illegal aliens should not be counted in that census then? Because that's, a big gripe that we Republicans have, because it's like, okay, you've got people fleeing the blue cities and the blue states. They're going to the red states, but you've got illegal aliens that are also flocking to these blue cities and these blue states because they are sanctuaries. So do you see why we might be like, okay, you want to use the census, you want to do it every 10 years, but you can't count the illegals. Would you be willing to say, all right, we're only going to do it every 10 years, but no illegals?
Yeah, I agree. I think that we need to figure out a way where you can count everyone who lives here legal or illegal, but then there has to be a way to have people who are actually voting and who are eligible to vote. So I don't disagree that we need to figure out a better system, but I think it's what Democrats are upset about right now is that Donald Trump asked to do this in a midterm cycle, and he asked Texas to find 5 more seats. And I think that is the crux of the problem. I do agree with you that there are other problems in how we redistrict as well.
Yeah. So another question for you. I give Democrats credit for being cutthroat with really everything. I mean, they went after Donald Trump and they went after him with everything that they possibly had in the tank, man. They wanted to sink that man no matter what. Nothing was off the table. They'll make up things to go after Donald Trump, right? So I don't like it, but Democrats, they'll go for gold. If they got to shut down the country for COVID and they have to introduce new voting rules with mass mail-in voting and then tell everyone to stay in their homes and just send in a ballot and all this stuff, Democrats will do whatever it takes. Republicans, not that way. Oftentimes, Republicans clutch their pearls. Oh, no, we play by the rules. We don't want to do that. But now you've got President Trump saying to Texas Republicans, you know what? We're going to play too. We're going to play the game. Why is it that Republicans always have to be, straight-laced, but Democrats will do whatever it takes?
So it's so interesting because I think most Democrats think that we are very straight-laced and we are very pearl-clutching as well and don't actually fight fire with fire. So that's what's interesting in this fight about the redistricting is you're seeing Governor Newsom and other governors saying, no, if you take 5 seats in Texas, we'll find 5 seats in our state, and and then there are Republicans that will lose their seats in those specific states. So I think it's interesting because I think that every party kind of feels that their own party isn't fighting hard enough for them. And I do believe that is part of the problem we are having in our country, because we are not willing to work together, because no one is willing to just say like, hey, we were wrong, or hey, there might be a better way to do this. Like, as a Democrat, maybe the Republican has the better idea, but that's a whole different topic that we probably don't have time to get into.
Yeah. I want to mention some of the other folks that have joined this fight. You mentioned Gavin Newsom. Well, Gavin Newsom, as long as there's a camera and there's, an option for him to get in front of it, he's going to fight whatever he has to do. He will do anything. I mean, if you tell the man to get on TV, he's going to have to stand on one leg and put a clown nose on, the man will do it. But aside from him, you've got actual Texans who I guess maybe carry a little bit more weight because at least they're Texans. I don't know if they're such great spokespeople, though. I want to play Jasmine Crockett. She's real pissed because she might lose her seat, right? But, she, once again, is so classy and eloquent with the way that she describes things to the American people. I want to play it and get your reaction.
Because the Supreme Court has paved the way for half the stuff that we see that's going on. Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of okay, we know that. Yes, he is. But in a functioning democracy, he still would not be able to get away with this. But he's been able to get away with this because the House Republicans are complicit. He's been able to get away with this because Senate Republicans are complicit. But most importantly, the courts, especially the Supreme Court, is complicit. And so I think one of the places that we have to start is we are absolutely, they are the highest court in the land, and they have no ethics guardrails. Now you go down to the lower courts and they do. How much sense does that make? When we know that they're taking money, we have the paper trail, and they refuse to put guardrails on themselves. So it's time for us to do it for them.
So there's a lot to go through there. First of all, I don't know if it's very befitting for a member of Congress on either side to call a sitting president a, quote, piece of shit. Don't know that comes off great. Another question for you, just aesthetically, do you think she bought her jeans that way, or do you think that they ripped in the knees when she sat down?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure she bought them that way. That seems to be very questionable. I'm too old to wear ripped jeans, so
But what do you think of the way that she speaks? Because she also called Trump an orange orangutan. She calls him Timu Hitler, and then a POS. So I'm wondering if you think that that's effective messaging for somebody who's an elected member of Congress.
So when I worked for the president, I worked in the White House 2 separate times and worked for 2 different presidents. I didn't like it when they called people names then. I didn't like it when people said, let's go Brandon to Joe Biden. I feel like it's extremely disrespectful to the office, and I don't like it now. You can disagree with the president, but calling him a name, he's the leader of the free world. Regardless, I don't agree with nearly anything that he stands for, but I do think the name calling is unnecessary. What she could have effectively communicated, what she said post calling him a name, and she was spot on in my opinion, and she was spot on in that, and she is talking to the base of the party, and that rallies them, and that is appropriate to do, and all of the things, and you can have those opinions. I am a firm believer that we should not be calling our elected officials, president, members of Congress, frankly, anybody, we shouldn't be calling names. But I am a really big believer that it is really inappropriate to call the president of the United States names. I did not like it when they did it to Joe Biden when I worked for him, and I do not like it now.
Yeah, I do think piece of and let's go Brandon might be in different buckets. If it was the let's go Brandon inspired language, I would kind of more so agree with you. But the member of Congress,
we heard it all.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's inappropriate to do. And especially coming from a member of Congress, you're supposed to be above those things. You're supposed to be leading your constituents and showing good leadership. She is free to say everything she said after. I agree with 99% of what she said after. You are more effective without calling people names. It's sort of when you start to swear, you sort of lose the.
But is it though, Meghan? Because it seems to me that the only way that Democrats can get any spotlight whatsoever is if they pull a stunt, they get arrested, We've seen that, of course, going outside of an ICE facility to angle to get arrested, to scream and yell and try to go viral, or to say crazy things like Timu Hitler or orangutan. By the way, I can't imagine if a white member of Congress would call anybody an orange orangutan. I can't imagine. That's just so disgusting. She called the governor of her state Hot Wheels. He is wheelchair bound. The president a POS. These are a string of horrible, disgusting things, not befitting of anybody, but especially an elected leader. But it seems to be, it's not like these just slip out of her mouth. To me, it's very calculated. It's a calculated endeavor for not just her, but others to speak this way, to act this way. Is that what it takes right now to be a Democrat of high standing, to pull stunts and go viral on social media?
No, I think she could have been extremely effective in her message without saying those things about the president. I have not heard her call the president the other things, but I believe that those are things that she would say. I mean, we saw her and Marjorie Taylor Greene get into it in a committee meeting, or like a couple, like last year, the year before, we saw them like have a fight back and forth calling each other names. It's just so unnecessary. It also is so immature. It's like kids, right? Like this is what you expect from fifth graders at school on the playground when they don't get the like their snack or whatever. I don't even know, but it's absurd and it's inappropriate. And I feel like you're much more effective in saying what you want to say. You don't need to call people names because there's enough here for Democrats to be criticizing the Republicans and the president on his policies. We don't need to resort to name calling.
But Democrats that are not doing the name calling and not getting arrested or doing big performative things, they're not in the news and they're not on TV. So, but
they're not on the national spotlight, right? They are in their local media. They are in their local communities and they are being effective. Democrats have won something like 33 of the down ballot races and since the election out of like 37 or something. So they are performing well down ballot in their local communities. And that's really what matters. Politics is local. And I think that that's where Democrats, where the polling is saying that the Democratic Party isn't popular. The National Party isn't popular, and you can kind of see why. They're a little bit little messy, not sure who's leading the party. But in their communities, people believe in the Democratic policies and believe in their leaders in their own communities. And that's showing from whatever they're doing locally, whether it be local media, whether they're showing up at their town halls. So just because they're not on cable news or they're not in a national spotlight, I don't think it doesn't mean they're not in the news. And I do think that 99% of members of Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, don't need to pull stunts to get into the news. I think that they are very effective in their own districts legislating for their constituents.
Yeah, there has to be a leader, though. And when we talk about 2028, these folks that you're talking about, they're not moving the radar. They're not moving the needle at all. So the Democrat Party is going to have to reckon with that internally. Do they want somebody who's charismatic on social media, or do they want somebody who can actually win a general election? I don't know that you have somebody that can do both right now. You have a few years to find it, but the more that the Jasmine Crockett's of the world are the ones getting the spotlight, it's just going to be more of an uphill battle. Not for likes and clicks, they'll do fine there and spotlight, but in terms of, legislation or leadership, I don't think it's going to happen. I want to play a clip for you. Another, voice in the Democrat movement is somebody who happens to be an acquaintance and maybe even / friend of mine in some media way, and that's Charlemagne the God. He was on this weekend with Trump, and he was saying his pick for 2028. You're a Democrat strategist, so I want you to analyze this for me. Play it.
Do you see yourself in 2028 voting blue or voting red? And is there anyone you might already see yourself supporting?
I really don't know. I mean, I think that there's some good candidates out there. I think that we really have to look to the governors when it comes to the Democrats. I don't think that there's any change agents that's going to come out of nowhere and shake things up in the Democratic Party. I think it's going to end up being a governor, Josh Shapiro or a Wes Moore, somebody like that. And they actually have a track record, right? Because you can go look at their states to see what they're probably going to end up doing on a national level. The only other person I would like to see in 2028 run, and this is going to sound ridiculous probably coming from me, I would love to see Jon Stewart run in 2028. If we're talking about a change agent coming from the outside that's really going to shake things up, and somebody that I feel like can speak to, all people. Plus he's a celebrity who actually knows what they're talking about. We've seen him get legislation and stuff, passed before. We know where his heart is. He'd be somebody I'd like to see really get in the race and disrupt things in 2028. 28. You know,
Well,
maybe a Jon Stewart Colbert ticket because Colbert's not going to have a job. He's not working because of President Trump, so they say.
So he wants Stewart Colbert. What do you think? Is that a winning ticket?
I don't necessarily think it's a winning ticket. Both of those guys are very smart and very clever and policy oriented in a way that you probably wouldn't assume. I know Jon Stewart.
I sure would not. Jon Stewart, he's done some things for 9/11 victims, so I will definitely give him that. Colbert has danced around about vaccines, and he's an idiot.
And he's been very involved in South Carolina, and that's where he's from, et cetera. But I don't think that's a winning ticket. I don't think that people would take that seriously. But I don't think that he is wrong, that it's going to be a governor that is probably the nominee for the Democratic Party. And just as something you were saying earlier, in 2020, there were 20 candidates in the race, and Joe Biden was really low on the totem pole for everyone, and he ended up being the party's nominee because he ran on policy, and he wasn't a flash. And I know that our social media is different, and our media landscape is significantly different even in 4 or 5 years after that. But people at the end of the day want people and their policies. And I think we forget that and on the Democratic side. And so you might be able to make a splash on social media, but you got to run on policy. And I do think that some of our Democratic governors have strong backgrounds and or strong policies and results in their states to run on.
Mm-hmm. Also, not having socialist communist policies might be another one. That's why Joe got the nomination in 2020, because everybody else on the stage was basically a socialist. Or in Kamala's case, a nincompoop. So that's why you got Joe, because he was the most moderate of the bunch, really. I mean, I guess you could argue like Bloomberg, but there was a lot there. Speaking of that,
and most people are moderate.
Yeah, you're right. But your party isn't getting it. That's why they've got Mamdani, who could quite possibly be the mayor of New York City. Now, there have been some Democrats like Pocahontas Warren who have embraced him fully. Others who are really kind of stepping back like, I don't know if this is a good idea. Not because they don't want socialism, I believe that they do, but because they realize it's not appetizing nationally. But what's your take? Do you think that Mamdani is helpful to your party and what they're trying to do?
So I don't. I think that he has the way he ran his campaign and the way he talked to people and met voters where they were and walking from one end of Manhattan to the other end of Manhattan, that was an extremely effective way to campaign. But he's identified a problem of affordability, which both Democrats and Republicans campaign on all of the time. His solutions are not where the Democratic Party is. Socialism is an ideology that is not the same ideology as the Democratic Party. So I do think that we are starting to conflate things here. And I don't think what works for 2.5% of the population in New York City will work for the entire country.
It won't work for 2.5% of the population either, because once again, I don't understand. New Yorkers are supposed to be so smart. They are highly educated. A lot of them work in finance, work in Wall Street. It is the financial capital of the world. And they are on the precipice. They are on the cusp of electing a socialist/communist to lead their city. It doesn't make sense to me at all.
It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me either. And I actually think when you start to tax people more, the tax rate in New York City is extremely high. I lived there for a year and it was shocking how much you were paying in taxes, even as a Democrat who's, you're susceptible to paying more taxes and you're like, okay. But you are going to see people leave. You're going to see businesses leave. There are too many. It will be too high. And then what do? You won't be able to follow through with some of the promises you made. You cannot expect everyone to just take on new taxes and think that's okay. So I just think that there is a little bit of misunderstanding of how you pay for things within some of the folks in New York City that nominated him. But I do think the way he campaigned is a good wake-up call to Democrats. I think the way he's identified a real problem of affordability, I just don't agree with his solutions. And I don't agree with the way he wants to solve the problem, but I don't live in New York, so I don't get to vote there.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting because if he does win, I think you are going to see Democrats flock to him because they just want something that can win. And they don't even care if they full well know it's going to take them down a socialist communist path. It's like, we just want to win. And that's really concerning to me. Like, that actually terrifies me for the Democrat Party.
Yeah, I disagree a little bit. I don't think a lot of Democrats will flock to them. I think they realize that doesn't work in their communities. You even see it with the senators in New York, and you see it with some of the members of Congress in the outlying areas of New York City and around in Long Island, et cetera. They are not adopting those policies. They are not being supportive. They understand that those policies will not work in their communities and will not work in the Democratic Party. And most Democrats, 90% of Democrats, 99% of Democrats are not socialists and do not agree with socialist values. That is, it's a completely different thing. It's like saying all Republicans want authoritarianism or being a dictator. That's just, it's not realistic. It's not logical. That's not, and I just don't think, and where I understand that's where the national media is trying to take the Democrats, I just don't think that's where the Democrats across the country are. And frankly, in the 3 states that matter, that's not, socialist policies for sure won't work there. So
yeah, I hope you're right. I want to talk about some cultural stuff. Were you one of the white liberal women who was freaking out over the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ad?
So to be perfectly honest, I was on vacation last week with my mom in Seattle and was not watching the news at all.
Oh, you saw it. I could catch you up real quick. Yeah. They're freaking out.
So I did do a little Googling and familiarize myself before today. I don't really understand this. I don't really understand. I understand the play on words. I don't really understand the controversy. This seems like one of those things that we're all going to get uptight about. That's not really a thing. Do I think that they probably, someone should have been a little bit more aware of what was happening? Sure. But I'm a little confused on the controversy of why we are so worked up about this.
Yeah. I want to play just because, you were gone. There are some women who identify similarly to you, a liberal female. I believe this person's a female. I actually don't know. But I want to play why they're outraged just to catch you up a little bit. Let's take a look.
The Sydney Sweeney ad, have you seen it?
Oh, yes, I have.
What are your thoughts?
Because it's white supremacy at the end of the day. That's what this ad is representing. Trying to calm myself. Yeah, that's not a good look. But that would, yeah, I mean, she's blonde hair, blue-eyed, white woman. Really? Like, the eugenics in that, it's dripping with it. A lot of the things she's been doing online have been a little bit questionable. It seems that she's definitely been pandering to a certain group of men online. And I'm like, no.
I understand why people are offended.
It's not acceptable to begin with. They used a white woman to send a very specific message.
I definitely think if it were a black woman, it would send a different message.
And so hopefully with enough outrage, companies will be afraid to put those types of messaging out.
Oh my God. Okay, you've got to explain this to me. I think you're very reasonable. I know that you're a white liberal woman who is reasonable, and you are pretty, and you are socially adjusted. Why are so many, though, that also fit into the demographic of white liberal women, why are they so insufferable, angry, and just bitter at the world? You got to help me out.
Yeah, unclear why they're so upset about this ad. It's maybe I'm too much of an optimist and to want to see the benefit, give people the benefit of the doubt. Like, I don't think that Sydney was trying to make a political statement in this ad. I don't think American Eagle was trying to make a political statement. I think they were trying to be cute and a play on words. She's a very hot actress right now. And I don't mean good looking hot. I mean like hot in the terms of she's very popular in America. She also is very beautiful. Don't get me wrong. But I don't really understand why people are so worked up. This is why people don't like Democrats. I think they get worked up over things that are, yes, you can take it that way if that's the way you want to take it, and that's fine. But I just don't believe in my heart that that's where her heart was, or that's where American Eagle was trying to go.
No, certainly not. But it's interesting to me. And I know that you don't have the answer for this. And I'm not trying to catch you in something. I'm just, as somebody who's obviously on the other side, who, doesn't understand a lot of this outrage. I'm a white woman as well. I'm a white conservative woman, though. But it feels like to me when I see clips, not only like that, but I see a lot of the protests and I see a lot of, the anger out there. And I look at the folks that are there. A lot of them are white liberal women, and they range in age, young white liberal women and then very old white liberal women. And they seem to be the ones that are the most angry, or the ones that are at least showing up with the most passion and anger. Why do you think that is?
It's interesting because most white women vote Republican, right? We've seen that time and time again, that most white women, especially suburban women, vote Republican. It's one of the issues that Democrats have been fighting for and trying to get back into the voting block for Democrats. And so it's interesting that they just have the loudest voice in some of these issues. And it's a very interesting thing to look at. I do think it was interesting in that promo that you showed, the younger people were the ones that were so offended. And the older woman was like, I can see why people are mad. She like definitely didn't want to she didn't seem mad, but she's like, I see why people are mad. So it seems to be more skewing towards young people. I think people want to look for something to be angry about. They're not happy within their own skin. They're not happy within their own circumstances. And I get it. Life is hard. Everything, grocery prices are high. Housing is unaffordable. I get all the things, but I don't necessarily think that everything is an issue on race. Not everything is meant to be a controversy. Some things are just what they are, and it's supposed to be a play on words and using a really popular actress who's beautiful and selling their jeans to American Eagle. It's hard for me to understand. Maybe I'm just a little bit older, so I don't necessarily identify with some of the younger folks that are being critical here. It's hard for me to get worked up about something that, we don't know. It's irrational.
It certainly is. And I appreciate you for being honest and transparent about that. I don't think it's a winning message for the Democrat Party to just lean into the wokest of the woke and everything is racist and everything is against Black and brown people and everything is against the queer liberation. And I just don't think that that's a winning message for you guys. And sounds like you also agree with that. I really appreciate the conversation. Best of luck to the Democrat Party. I'm going to talk about it in my final thoughts, but I want a thriving Democrat Party in this country. I don't want it to be Republicans and communists. I want it to be Republicans and Democrats. I hope Democrats can find their sanity somewhere. So I think we're in agreement on that. But thank you so much for joining me on this Liberal Tuesday. I hope to have you back.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. As I was saying, the Democrat Party is embracing socialism, communism, and anti-Semitism because in their collective singular brain cell, they lost in 2025 because they weren't socialist, communist, or anti-Semitic enough. It's time for final thoughts. Zohran Mamdani has been compared to a snake oil salesman, but that's much too nice a comparison because snake oil doesn't work, but it doesn't kill you. Communism, the real thing he's selling, will. It will strangle the life out of New York City and everywhere else people are dumb enough to elect and allow it. And bad news for blissfully ignorant New Yorkers, they're about to be the guinea pigs in this doomed experiment. Some Democrats like Stutter Butter Flutter Hakeem Jeffries or Spartacus Booker are still avoiding the big donkey in the room.
About Mamdani, are you going to support him?
I have learned a long time ago. Let New York politics be New York politics. We got enough challenges in Jersey. I got a governor's race. I'm supporting Mikey Sherrill. I got legislative races. That's where my energy is going to go going into November. New York City, I love you. You're my neighbor. You're about 10 miles from where I live. You guys figure out your elections. I'm going to focus on mine.
Although Booker may not be the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree, he's a hell of a lot smarter than the fake Indian, that's for sure.
When someone stands up and says, I will lead this city by making it more affordable, and here are my plans, real plans, plans to deliver on childcare, plans to deliver on housing, plans to deliver, we're going to experiment, we're going to try things on groceries. That is the Democratic message.
Pocahontas wants to experiment with price controls in government-owned grocery stores. Isn't that cute? Did she happen to, fall and hit her head or something? I don't know. But she's not the only one. Young people are super stoked about socialism, which is the direct predecessor of communism, because they have no clue what it is. I call this an ode to our failing American education system.
Candidates like Zohran Mamdani and AOC are really inspiring to see.
Seeing people like Zohran Mamdani, AOC just gaining so much more footing and so much more recognition in the policy field is very empowering. I think that more politicians should be adopting socialism.
That right there is also proof that young conservatives are a hell of a lot smarter than young liberals. Usually better looking too. But as kind of comical as this New York City behavior is to make fun of from the comfort of Tennessee, it's still horrifying in every way. As much as it may shock you to hear me say this, we need a functioning Democrat Party in America to pick on, but also for the health of the republic. We will not have that if the party goes full communist. And if Mamdani wins and becomes the mayor of New York City, the party will have the full green light to go full on in that direction. It'll be free sex changes for illegals and worse. It's not even because the majority of Democrats believe in it, but rather because it's the only energy that party has. The sane Democrats are boring. They're lifeless. They have zero charisma. On the Republican side, and for damn sure the MAGA side, we don't have that problem. We can do both. Be cool. Have good ideas. They can't over there. It's either AOC or Slotkin. And AOC is probably more interesting to look at. And while these communist candidates won't win a national election anytime soon, the more dum-dums our schools pump out and the more time they spend on TikTok thereafter, well, you do the math. It's terrifying stuff. So for the sake of America, I am legit hoping and praying the Democrat Party can find a non-commie party leader that isn't as boring as drying paint. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Those are my final thoughts. Please be sure to tune in live tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. Catch full episodes on Outkick and Fox Nation. Please like and subscribe to the show on YouTube at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. From Nashville, God bless and take care. Hey, thanks for watching. For more of my hottest takes, must-see conversations, and of course, my final thoughts, click right here. And don't forget to subscribe. Just click right here so you never miss a beat. I will be here every weekday, and I hope you'll join me.